The pros is you get to learn a whole new culture and you get to celebrate two separate sides of, families and merge them together.
Yeah.
Which I don't think could ever happen if I married a Pakistani guy, and I would just kind of be in my own little bubble.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us are, and there's nothing wrong with that too, but to me, I feel like it's opened my mind in so many ways.
Welcome to So Where Are You From? I'm your host, Nooshin Bagheri, a first-generation Iranian-American by identity and an immigration attorney by profession. Today, as a guest, I would like to welcome my friend Shahida Hyman. Shahida currently works at Emory's undergraduate admissions department, but also has 20 years of experience in HR management for corporate and medical offices. Thank you for coming, Shahida. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor. And first of all, congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you so much.
And your practice.
Thank
immigration.
you.
We have come such a long way, by the way.
We have. We've known each other for how long now? Over like 20?
Almost 20 years.
Almost
but
20
do you
years.
remember the first time we met?
I don't. My memory
It's like we're dating or something.
Not personal, but my memory short to long-term memory has been
I'll
gone.
remind you. It was at our mutual friend Sadia.
Oh,
Her
yes.
sister's Mandy.
Yes.
And a wedding.
In Decatur, yes.
Yes, that was the first time.
Oh, wow.
But then, we were married, had young kids. We
Yeah.
had new careers. Now we're divorced and starting a new chapter.
Yes.
So it's come a long way.
It's come a long way. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's been good. So the one question I always ask all my guests initially is, so where are you from?
I'm originally from Pakistan, but born and raised here in the U.S. So,
Okay.
so I can just tell you that my parents came here. Actually, my dad came here when he was 20 by himself.
Yeah.
He went to California, studied chemical engineering,
Aw.
and he completed his degree in 2.5 years by himself.
Wow.
Working side jobs. He was such a hard worker. Then my mom came over, and he got his first job in Baltimore. That's where I was born.
Okay.
And then I guess he got a better job in Greenville, South Carolina, because that's where I was raised. And I went to Clemson University, graduated with business management. And then I think I'm jumping the gun, sorry. But I also got married soon after I graduated college and moved to Atlanta and been in Atlanta for over 20 years now.
So of all places, so how long were you in Baltimore? Would you call Greenville
2
home?
years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I don't
Greenville's
remember
home.
a thing. Greenville is home.
Is Greenville home or Atlanta?
For me, Atlanta is home.
Okay.
But Greenville is always going to be a second home.
Yeah.
My parents still live there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been, I don't even know how many years now, but they're still there. They still have their old friends there. So when I go, it's nostalgic. And
Yeah.
a lot of my high school friends still live there too.
Could you go back and live there?
Greenville is beautiful. It's definitely come a long way, but I love Atlanta.
Yeah.
I love Atlanta. I need a
You're
little bit
close
of a
enough,
bigger city,
yes. You're close enough to tap in when you need that.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
So you're Pakistani American.
Yes.
How is that typically? It's a conservative type family. It's a conservative type culture.
Yes.
How was that growing up, especially in Greenville, South Carolina?
Yes, very difficult because what Greenville is today wasn't 30 plus years ago. It was, obviously very Southern, predominantly white. I grew up in a high school that I don't even think maybe had a handful of people of color.
Yeah.
Often people would ask me, where are you from? And I would say Pakistan. And they were like, what is that?
Yeah.
They had no idea. This is before the internet. This is before social media, CNN, all of it. So I often would just kind of, say, yeah, I'm American. Then I would just get quiet about it just because it was such a big deal. And then it became so second nature to me just to be American and not mention anything about being a Pakistani Muslim. So I kind of was embarrassed. I hate to say it, but I was, because you want to fit in as a teenager.
Of course, yeah.
And
it's a hard stage.
Yeah, it's very hard. And my parents, I want to preface it by saying that my parents did the best they could.
Yeah.
Our parents did,
Yeah.
obviously. I mean, they were first-generation immigrants coming here all
By
alone,
themselves, no family, no
nothing.
community.
And so they really they didn't have a guidebook. They didn't
Yeah.
have anything, so they did the best they could. They tried to preserve our culture as much as possible.
Yeah.
But it was difficult because as a teenager, you just want to fit in. So
Yes.
it's the clash of two cultures. And it was difficult. I mean, you probably can
Yeah.
relate. It was very
yes.
difficult because we want to stay our religion and culture, but we want to be American as well.
Yeah.
And I feel that once I got to college, that's when I realized, I am proud to be a Pakistani American. And as I got in my 20s, 30s, I embraced it. Like I fully embraced it and loved it. And now I'm just proud of it.
I think what it gets to when you're younger, you just want to fit in and you want to be the culture or mesh in a community that you don't have a connection to. And then when you get to the bigger world, you want to hang on tight then to that ethnic
Yes.
community because you feel you belong somewhere.
Exactly.
You're just wanting this. It's a sense of belonging.
Belonging.
And
That's
it's really hard. Like you say, like our parents, they did the best they could. And hindsight, of course, I appreciate the strictness of it and all the enforcing of the culture and religion. But yeah, you just wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
It was an awkward stage. I'm not going to say it was fun, but I think it was until college where at least I felt like you had a bigger span of students, peers to pick from of all race, ethnicity,
Yes.
backgrounds. And that's where you felt like you can fit in or find your little niche and then grow from there and be comfortable in your own identity.
Oh, exactly. Definitely. Even though I went to Clemson, which is still a Southern school, I still saw more international students there than I did in high school,
Yeah.
So it slowly, I wouldn't say I found myself completely there, but
Yeah.
slowly it started opening up. But I also want to thank my mom and dad for coming here and making those
Yeah.
sacrifices for us to have a better life.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them, we might be in Iran or Pakistan still, you
Yeah.
know? So I thank them for it, and I'm forever eternally grateful. So I understand everything now, but growing up, no, I didn't.
Yeah,
I was a middle
course.
child. I'm still a middle child, and I did things differently, and I never wanted to follow the traditional path, but
Yeah.
I still respected my parents and tried to do the right thing.
course.
But we all make mistakes at some point. You learn
Yeah.
from them, but overall, I think I look back at growing up in the 80s, and I'm like, it was a fun time. Like I look at it in a positive way now.
Yeah.
And I'm still really close to my high school friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Matter of fact,
awesome.
I'm going to see them next week. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So eventually after school, you said you got married.
Yes.
And currently you're not together, but with your then husband, he wasn't of the same background.
No.
So how did that come up? First, how did you meet? What's his background, and how did that
Come
mesh with your
together.
family?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, we met at a mutual friend's house. He was having a dinner, and this was almost 30 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. He is of African American descent, but he has a mix of Native American, white, French.
Okay.
I mean, it's a fascinating background.
And he had all that influence in it as well? when growing
Yeah,
up?
I mean, yes, I would say his mom especially. I've learned so much from her. His family's so warm and welcoming. I love them. I still love them till this day.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that even though he was from that background and I was from Pakistani, our parents really just intertwined and loved each other.
Oh, wow.
It was, actually, I was very surprised on how easy it was.
Wow.
So initially, bringing it up, I was, of course, nervous. Anyone outside of our own ethnicity or
Did they expect you to? Did they ever tell you, we prefer someone from the same ethnicity?
Yeah, it makes it easier, right?
Yeah.
I mean, life is easier that way. But they also know me, and they
Yeah.
know that, okay, Shahida's probably going to go a different route. But, it was easy with him because he was really an amazing guy, and he had every attribute that any parent or, person would want in a spouse. And the biggest thing was that, is he Muslim?
Yes.
They wanted him Muslim. So
See, I think with my family, it wasn't so much, they never said, oh, it has to be Iranian. And they really never said anything really to me. I just knew I wanted a Muslim just because,
Makes
your
things
children
easier.
your children become Muslim through the
Right,
father.
right.
That was my thing. I didn't really care. It was mainly for my future children to be Muslim.
No. So growing up, for me, that was the first prerequisite. Like, he has to be Muslim. And at that time, you just follow what your parents say and you don't question it. And so he...
Even the middle child doesn't question it?
I did question it, but then I eventually follow whatever my parents say. I'm still trying to be a good child. So then he actually was exposed to Islam in medical school. His roommate was Muslim. So he knew all about it.
Oh, that helps.
When we first met, he knew things that I didn't even know. And so it definitely helped. And so he converted. And
Okay, so you weren't the first introduction to it. So that's good.
Yeah,
That's helpful.
yeah. So he converted, and my parents, loved him. But their prerequisite was that...
Who, your parents or
my
his?
parents?
Okay.
My parents. My grandfather, my dad's dad, and my eldest uncle, my mom's oldest brother.
Where are they located, here or back home?
They were in Greenville.
Okay.
They were in Greenville.
Okay.
And they're like, if you get their approval, then we will go forward.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
Wow,
Really?
you have to take it another level.
Yes.
It's like Games of Thrones.
Right. I know. I'm like, gosh. Okay. All right.
Oh, my goodness.
So I tell, my then husband, I was like, oh, yeah, you have to meet my grandfather and my eldest uncle. He was like, no problem.
Because is that what's culturally expected back
Yeah.
home? Where is that beyond your parents you have to get permission from?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. The people who are well respected in the family, and
Okay.
those two were. So so he meets them, and they both loved him immediately. And I was like, oh, this is much easier than I thought.
Wow.
Like, how crazy is this? So the rest is history.
Wow. And so when he were you, because and even in religion there's different views of religion. Some are maybe a little bit more conservative, some are a little bit more modern. Were you guys kind of on the same wavelength of that, or?
Yes, we were both moderate Muslims at that time. I wouldn't say we were overly religious or under. We did the basics, the 5 pillars, and we even did Hajj together.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
That's sweet.
It was, we tried to follow it the best we could.
Oh, that's awesome.
But as far as, religion and culture growing up, as you probably know, well, I don't know if in the Iranian, but there were blurred lines. Like, I didn't know the difference between our Pakistani culture and Islam because our parents, my parents just kind of merged them together.
Okay.
And so I just thought it was all the same until I started questioning it and like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? Some
Can you
people
give an
don't do it.
example? Like what part was that you realized was not one of the other?
Let me think off the top of my head.
I think with Iranians, they separate very well from the religion because I think, I don't know, it's my own opinion because I see it's funny because I was born and raised here,
Right.
so I'm a little more. I used to do the prayers for Ramadan. I respect it. I don't do the fasting, but I respect the time. I do my charity work then. But it's funny because the Iranians here who come from Iran, they're like, wow, you're so religious.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they were so impounded by it because the government is based on religion that they rebel more against it once they come here.
Right.
And
right,
so
right.
then I know the difference between the religion and the culture is very obvious.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that. I would say clothing, mixed gatherings, those kind of, I feel like are more cultural.
Okay.
But, I'm not a scholar, so I don't want to
Yeah.
say anything wrong.
Yeah,
but,
no.
I just felt like there were a few things that were a little more stricter than even Islam was. And,
Okay. Interesting.
And so as I got older, I started looking into it more and understanding that, the difference between the two.
Yeah.
And I respect both of them equally, but again, our parents were trying to preserve our culture, and that was their best way of doing it.
Yeah.
Is just intertwining the two.
Yeah.
So
did they know they're intertwining, or do you think they were raised that way too?
I don't think they knew. No, they didn't know. They were just raised that way.
Okay.
And they just didn't know any better.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
That is really... So, what is the pros and cons of marrying outside your culture or community?
I would say there are so many pros more than cons.
Oh, wow.
I'll just start with the con. The only con I can even think of is a language barrier, but not with me and him.
Yeah.
It was with my parents, but they speak English too.
Yeah.
But at home they speak Urdu, which I speak as well. And actually it turned out being a great thing because he started learning conversational Urdu. So now after 25 years, he understands a lot of it.
Oh, wow.
And, but initially, they're so used to just speaking Urdu and they realize, oh, he doesn't understand it. And then they start speaking English. So in the beginning, it was hard.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no other cons that I can think of. The pros is you get to learn a whole new culture and you get to celebrate two separate sides of, families and merge them together.
Yeah.
Which I don't think could ever happen if I married a Pakistani guy, and I would just kind of be in my own little bubble.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us are, and there's nothing wrong with that too. But to me, I feel like it's opened my mind in so many ways.
Do you think it helped? Do you think things would have been different, or your sentiments different with the pros and cons if he never converted? So you had two different religions being married to different
Yes, I definitely think that, because especially for children, when we first got married, we both knew that we wanted to raise the kids Muslim, and I think if he wasn't, it would be difficult trying to figure out how we're going to raise our kids. But as we got older, we just let the kids kind of choose their own path. Yeah. Because now they're 22 and 23, so they are going to choose whatever they want to choose, and we're going to respect that.
Yeah, you laid the foundation and asked them to choose.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So speaking of your daughter, so you have two grown young ladies.
Yes.
When parenting them and raising them, did the difference of the backgrounds, not necessarily because you have the same religion, you both agree to, raising them the same religion, but even of the background, did that become more magnified when raising these two girls? And then how'd you guys manage? Because if you're I'm sorry.
No.
Like if you're a little bit more conservative, like I know my parents would be a little bit more conservative, where, my ex-husband was had a more free-for-all youth. Yes. So, how was that?
It wasn't even his culture that was the hard part. It was me being an American also, where my parents are still very conservative. And clothing, that's number one. My daughters would want to wear the regular American stuff, and my mom would be like, no, you can't wear that. So they would respect that. So I feel like it was more the culture of being an American, which applies to me too.
Yeah.
And then being a conservative Pakistani Muslim. So it really wasn't his culture, I think, that was a clash. It was just because I felt like we were both on the same page in regards to that. They now totally embrace both sides. They love their dad's side and totally fit in, and they have fun. And then they love, the Pakistani side, especially my mom's food.
Yeah.
And, the clothes, the music, the weddings, they embrace it so much. So they are now proud of it, and they say, yeah I'm both. And,
Because now it's cool
it's cool now.
To be part of somewhere, exotic and...
Right. And I was kind of one of the first ones to do it.
Yeah.
But, and they were probably the first generation to be biracial. So...
Yeah.
But their generation actually is so open-minded.
Oh, I bet.
They are so open-minded. And so to their friends, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's not weird or strange.
No. So but when they were growing up, was there any confusion for them, or?
Yes, because, a lot of people just will look at you and just put a label.
Oh,
so based on what you look like, they're like, oh, well, you're Desi, or you're Pakistani, you don't look African-American, or you don't look this. So when they were trying to explain it, some people got it, and some people are like, well, you look this way.
Yeah.
And try to label you. But they were pretty strong-minded, independent girls at a young age. And they kind of told people, no, this is who I am. And tried to embrace it the best way. So yeah, I would say in middle school maybe it was a little difficult. But
I think middle school for every kid is
that is true.
Those are the worst years.
It is.
When you're trying to find yourself, you're changing, you're comparing
yes.
yourself, looks and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You just want to fit in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true.
Well, that's amazing. So as we close on this, do you have any advice to anyone who's decides to marry outside their cultural community, like any heads up before engaging in this merging of union?
Yes. First of all, I would highly recommend it. I think if all of us become more open-minded, our people especially, I think this world would be a better place. Also, just as a small disclaimer, you know, me and my ex-husband didn't divorce because of culture at all.
Yeah.
It was other, you know, differences, but we're very close, good friends, no issues there. So I want to, you know, make sure everyone knows that. But as I mentioned, that our kids' generation is probably the most open-minded, accepting of all cultures, races, genders, religions, that it's already happening, and it's going to happen in our kids' generation without us even saying anything.
I can't expect my high schooler or my child, the second generation, like, you have to marry an Iranian. It has to be like, there's just, you just can't do that to them. They're not made in that era. They weren't made back home.
Right, at all. And so our kids are very different than how we grew up. So I think they're going to do it regardless if we want it or not. And I've always been open with both of my daughters. So I said, whoever you find, we're going to, you know, as long as they treat you right and are respectful and nice to you, that's really the most important.
Exactly.
And, you know, I don't care if it's Pakistani or African American, whatever, you know, just as long as you're happy.
Yeah.
So, and they have a good head on their shoulders.
There's good people in all colors, shapes, and sizes.
Exactly.
Just as long as they're good. Yeah.
I know.
With a good heart, respectful of the other person's background.
Yes.
You know, that's just important.
Yes. And so, yeah, it's made me so much more accepting of everyone, you know, marrying outside my race. So I definitely would recommend it.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
This was fun. I enjoyed it. Thanks. Hope we'll have you again.